The night was dark, filled with smoke and the smell of burning metal. Somewhere on the edge of a ruined alien city, fire lit up the sky, broken glass, twisted steel, and pieces of a transport ship were scattered across the wasteland. And in the middle of the wreckage, a young woman slowly opened her eyes. She didn't know her name. She didn't know where she came from. Her head pounded, her vision blurred, and when she tried to remember anything, there was nothing. Only emptiness, like her whole past had been stolen away in the crash. She crawled across the ground, her arms shaking. Every bone in her body screamed with pain. The heat from the wreck was unbearable. The flames crackled and shadows moved in the smoke. She thought monsters had come for her, but it was worse. Scavengers had already arrived. Alien creatures with long claws, hungry for metal scraps and weak flesh. The young woman tried to run, but her legs gave way. She fell to the ground, trembling, waiting for claws to tear into her. But then she heard a sound. Not claws, not monsters, a growl, low and sharp. From the darkness, glowing eyes appeared, 1 pair, then 3, then 6. Stray dogs, wild, skinny, with ribs showing under fur. They bared their teeth and formed a circle around her. The scavengers hissed, but the dogs barked, snapping until the creatures slinked away into the night. The girl lay frozen, her chest heaving. The dogs didn't leave. Instead, they sniffed her, their wet noses pressing against her arms. Her clothes, her face, she expected them to bite her too. But they didn't. One of them, a large black dog with a torn ear, licked her hand. Another lay down beside her as if guarding her. The young woman didn't understand. But somehow in that moment she wasn't alone. Hours passed. The fire burned low. The scavengers disappeared. The girl drifted in and out of sleep. And when she opened her eyes again, the dogs were still there. She was shaking from cold, but their bodies pressed close, keeping her warm. When morning came, she followed them without thinking. Crawling at first, then limping, every step was pain, but their eyes kept checking back, making sure she followed. Like she was part of the pack, days turned into nights. The girl learned to move like them, eat like them. They found scraps near trash heaps of the alien city. Old bones, discarded food, rotten fruit. She ate with them. It was disgusting, but it kept her alive. When she coughed or cried, the dogs pressed against her. When strange noises came from the city, they stood between her and the danger. Slowly, fear of them turned into trust. She didn't remember her past, but she had a new present, living like an animal among animals. Rumors began to spread in the city. Merchants, workers, and soldiers whispered of a strange sight. A girl with no name, walking barefoot with a pack of stray dogs. Her hair wild, her clothes torn, her eyes empty. Some said she was cursed. Others said she was a ghost from the wreckage. But none dared go near because whenever someone tried, the dogs growled and snapped, protecting her like she was their own blood. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the alien skyline, the girl sat with her pack near the edge of the ruins. She stroked the torn ear of the black dog, the closest to her. For the first time, she smiled, a small, broken smile, but real, and yet, deep inside, something ached. She felt there was something missing, something she had lost. The empty hole in her memory was a wound deeper than any cut. Who was she before the crash? Why had no one come searching for her? And why in her dreams did she hear voices calling a name she could not remember? The dogs pressed close around her, and she drifted to sleep under the stars. But not far away, unseen in the shadows, a man stood on a broken balcony. Watching her, his eyes narrowed, his arms crossed. He had heard the rumors of the wild girl with the dogs, but now he had seen her himself. She was not just a story, not just a shadow, she was real, and something about her felt important. He whispered to himself, she doesn't belong here. But he said nothing more, and vanished back into the night. The girl slept, unaware that her life was about to change forever. Her past was gone, her future uncertain, but her survival had already become a mystery that no one in the alien city could ignore. The sun rose over the alien city, painting the ruins in a pale orange glow. The young woman stirred awake with the pack of dogs around her, their warm bodies still pressed close. Her stomach growled louder than the dogs, hunger stabbing her again and again. She did not know how many days had passed since the crash. Time felt broken. Only hunger, pain, and the strange comfort of the pack remained. The black dog with the torn ear, the one who had licked her hand on the first night, had become her leader. She followed him wherever he went. When he barked, she moved. When he stopped, she froze. When he found food, she learned to share. The girl who had once been human was learning to live like them, crawling, sniffing, even sleeping with her face against the dirt. Her hands grew rough, her nails cracked. Her clothes filthy and torn, but her eyes, once empty, slowly began to shine again, not with memory but with instinct. She was surviving even without her name, even without her past. The city around her did not welcome her. Shops closed doors when the dogs passed. Children pointed and shouted, "Wild girl! Wild girl!" they cried. Merchants threw stones to chase her away. But she did not cry, she simply hid behind the pack, letting the dogs snarl and bark until the danger passed, and yet, in the shadows of the streets, whispers spread like fire. "Did you see her? She's not normal. Those beasts would kill anyone else. But they protect her." Some believed she was a spirit, others swore she was cursed by the gods, and a few, the brave ones, whispered that she must have a secret, a power that made the dogs obey her. One cold night, as rain poured down and the alleys flooded, the girl shivered in a corner with her pack. She pressed her face against the black dog's fur, tears slipping down without her knowing. She didn't know why she cried. She didn't even know the word for cry, but deep inside she felt the pain of something lost. A home she couldn't remember, a family she couldn't see. Every dream was filled with voices, blurred faces, a man's shout, a woman's scream, then fire, then silence. The dogs licked her tears, whining softly. She buried her face against them, and for that moment she believed they were enough. Her family, her protection, her only reason to stay alive, but far away. The man who had seen her once before was watching again. He had followed the rumors to this alley. From the shadows he saw her drenched in rain, shivering but alive, his heart tightened. Most would have died days ago in such conditions, but she had not. She had endured. There was something about her, something that pulled at him like gravity. The next morning, the girl limped after her pack to the marketplace. The dogs sniffed through trash, finding rotten vegetables and bones. She crouched with them, eating as if it were normal. But when she looked up, she saw dozens of eyes watching her, faces filled with disgust, fear, and something else, curiosity. One alien soldier spat on the ground and muttered, "Better to put her down. She's nothing but a stray now." The words meant nothing to her. She did not remember language, but she felt the hatred in his tone, and it burned even though she could not name it. Later that night, something changed. The girl and her pack wandered into the old ruins near the city's edge. There, a group of scavenger creatures surrounded them, sharp teeth, glowing eyes, and claws ready to rip flesh. The dogs growled, but there were too many. The girl's heart raced, her breath caught in her throat. Her body screamed at her to run, but she couldn't leave them. They were her only family. So she picked up a broken metal rod from the ground and stood beside the black dog. Her hands shook, her knees almost gave way. But she held her ground. The scavengers hissed, circling closer. The dogs barked louder, their fur bristling. And then, with a scream torn from her throat, the girl swung the rod. It was clumsy, weak, but enough to strike one in the face. The creature yelped and fell back. Blood dripping, the others hesitated. The dogs seized the moment, lunging forward as a pack. Together, girl and beasts fought until the scavengers fled into the night. When it was over, she collapsed to her knees, gasping for air. The black dog pressed his head against her arm. Whining softly, she was shaking, bruised but alive for the first time. She realized something. She wasn't just surviving with the dogs. She was becoming one of them, not their pet, not their follower, their sister, their fighter, their equal. From the rooftop above, the man had seen everything. Her courage, her defiance, her strange bond with the beasts, and as he turned away, he muttered, "She's not just a girl. She's something more." The girl sat in the ruins, rain dripping from the sky, her memory still gone. Her body weak, but deep inside a fire had sparked. She was no longer just the girl from the crash. She was the girl who lived with dogs, and the world, alien or human, would never look at her the same way again. The market was busy, full of shouts, smells, and the clash of coins, merchants yelled. Children ran between stalls, and guards kept a sharp eye on thieves. But among the crowd, whispers spread like smoke. "Look, the wild girl," someone muttered. "There, see her with the beasts," another said, pointing quickly before turning away in fear. The girl limped past, barefoot, hair tangled, her torn clothes clinging to her thin body. Around her padded the stray dogs, a wall of fur and teeth. The black dog with the torn ear walked ahead like a commander. Anyone who came too close was met with growls. Most people moved aside quickly. The girl's eyes were blank but alert, scanning everything like prey ready to run. And above, hidden on a balcony, the man watched. He had followed her for days now, never getting too close, never letting her notice. He had seen her fight off scavengers with nothing but a broken rod. He had seen her bleed but keep standing. He had seen her protect the dogs like they were her family. Each time, something inside him tightened. Why was she different? Why did she survive when anyone else would have been bones by now? The man was not from this city. He was a traveler, moving from place to place. But there was a story in this girl, he could feel it. A mystery written in her scars, in her silence. And he needed to know it. One night, he followed her deeper into the ruins. The dogs moved ahead, sniffing shadows. The girl walked like a shadow herself, quiet, cautious. She didn't know someone trailed behind. The man kept his distance, every step careful. But his mind was burning with questions. Who was she before the crash? Why had no one come for her? And what did those strange symbols on her arms mean? He had noticed them before when firelight caught her skin. Lines and shapes burned into her flesh, not natural, not random. Symbols of something old, something powerful. He had seen marks like that once, long ago, in places he was not supposed to be, and if he was right, then this girl was more dangerous than anyone realized. The girl crouched by a broken fountain, scooping dirty water with her hands. The dogs drank beside her, tails wagging weakly. She looked tired, her body thin, but her eyes were sharp. She raised her head suddenly, staring at the darkness. For a moment, the man thought she had seen him. His heart raced, but then the black dog barked, and she turned away, distracted. The man let out a slow breath. She hadn't noticed him, not yet. Days passed, and he continued to watch. From rooftops, from alleys, from shadows. He saw her move like an animal, but also like a survivor. When she smiled at the dogs, he saw warmth. When she glared at strangers, he saw fire. When she curled up alone, he saw sorrow deeper than words, and each time his decision became clearer. He could not just watch forever. At some point he would have to step in, but the city was changing too. The whispers about her grew louder. Some people said she was blessed, others said she carried a curse. A few believed she had hidden power, something worth money. Already dangerous eyes had begun to follow her path. Men who wore knives on their belts. Traders who dealt not in goods but in flesh. If they caught her, she would be chained, sold, or worse. The man clenched his fists whenever he thought about it. He had no reason to protect her. She was a stranger, and yet he could not stand by. One evening, as the suns dipped below the horizon, the girl sat with her pack near the ruins. The air smelled of rain, thunder rolling in the distance. The man leaned against a wall, watching from the shadows as always. The dogs curled around her, their heads resting on her legs. She stroked the black dog absent-mindedly, her eyes distant. Her lips moved, whispering something too soft to hear. The man leaned closer, trying to catch the sound. And then it hit him. She was speaking. Not words he understood, not even full sentences. But fragments, broken sounds, a memory trying to crawl back from the dark. The man froze. His suspicions grew sharper. If her memory returned, what would she become? A victim or a weapon? A girl in need of saving or a storm that could burn this city down? The rain began to fall. The girl tilted her face upward, letting drops wash her dirt-streaked cheeks. The dogs barked at the thunder. The man turned away. His jaw tight. Sooner or later he would have to reveal himself. But not tonight, not yet. For now, he would remain the unseen shadow, the stranger who watched from afar. But deep in his chest he already knew. The moment he stepped forward, nothing would ever be the same again. The night was heavy with silence, broken only by the restless barking of dogs. The girl sat in the ruins with her pack, her arms wrapped tightly around her thin body. The fire she had built from scraps had died hours ago. Cold air pressed in, making her shiver. She leaned against the black dog with the torn ear, finding warmth in his rough fur. Her stomach twisted with hunger. Her lips cracked from thirst. This was survival, painful, endless, lonely, but tonight something was different. From the shadows beyond the ruins, someone stepped forward. The man, the stranger who had watched her for many nights. For the first time, he left the safety of the dark. His boots crunched softly against the broken ground. The dogs lifted their heads at once, growling, their eyes blazing. The girl snapped to attention, her body tense. Her hand gripped a sharp piece of metal. Ready to fight. The man raised his hand slowly, showing he carried no weapon. His voice was calm, quiet. "I don't want to hurt you," he said. The words meant nothing to her. She had forgotten language, but the tone carried weight. The girl narrowed her eyes. Not lowering her guard, the black dog barked. Stepping in front of her, the rest of the pack fanned out. A wall of snarling teeth. The man reached into his coat, pulling out something wrapped in cloth. The dogs barked louder, ready to strike, but when he unwrapped it, the smell spread through the air, meat fresh and real. The dogs froze, noses twitching, hunger pulling them forward. The girl's eyes widened, her stomach growling louder than ever. She didn't understand the man, but she understood food, and food meant life. The man crouched down, placing the meat on the ground. He stepped back slowly, carefully. The dog sniffed, growled, then lunged at the food, tearing it apart. The girl stayed still, clutching her piece of metal, her eyes locked on him. She didn't trust him, not yet, but he hadn't attacked. He hadn't shouted, he had fed her family. That was something no one else had done. The man stayed at a distance, watching quietly as she ate with the dogs. He noticed the way she tore at the meat like an animal, the way her hands shook, but her eyes never left him. There was intelligence there behind the dirt and the scars. She was not just a wild creature, she was someone broken, someone lost. And that made her dangerous, but also precious. When the food was gone, the girl wiped her mouth with the back of her hand. The dogs growled again, warning the man not to move closer. He lifted his hand, palm open, showing he had no more. But then he did something strange. He knelt down, lowering himself to her level slowly. He touched the ground with his hand, pressing it flat. A gesture of peace. The girl tilted her head, confused. She didn't understand the meaning. But the dogs relaxed slightly, sensing no threat. The man studied her in the dim moonlight. Her hair tangled, her skin bruised, and on her arm, the strange symbols glowed faintly when lightning flashed in the distance. Yes, he had been right. She carried marks not of this city, not of common people. They were ancient, forbidden, and they were the reason she had survived. He clenched his jaw, realizing the danger. If others discovered her, she would be hunted, captured, maybe even killed. But here she was, staring at him with wide, uncertain eyes, a girl with no memory, guarded by beasts, holding a piece of broken metal like a weapon. The rain began to fall again, dripping from the broken roofs. The man rose to his feet, pulling his cloak tighter. He didn't try to touch her, didn't try to speak again. He simply turned and walked away into the shadows. The girl watched him go, her body trembling. Part of her wanted to follow, part of her wanted to run, but she stayed with her pack. The black dog pressed his head against her arm, reminding her she was not alone. That night, as she lay under the ruins, sleep came slowly. She dreamed again, voices, faces, fire, and now something new. A shadowed figure standing in the flames, holding out a hand. His voice was muffled, but his eyes were kind. She woke with a gasp, clutching her chest, her heart beat fast. She did not know why, but she felt the dream and the stranger were the same. The next day the man returned. This time, he brought water. The dogs growled, but when he placed the container on the ground, they drank eagerly. The girl followed, her lips cracking, her throat burning. She drank too. Watching him carefully, he said nothing, only stood with arms crossed. When she finished, he took the container back, and once again he left without a word. It became a pattern each day. He came with food or water each day. She accepted. Though always with suspicion, the dog stopped growling.
They began wagging tails when he arrived, but the girl
only stared at him, her eyes full of questions. She could not speak. Her memory was still gone, her world still broken. But now, for the first time, a new piece had entered her life. The stranger who fed her, the stranger who did not fear her, and somewhere deep inside, where her forgotten past slept like ashes, a spark began to glow, a feeling she had almost forgotten. Not hunger, not fear, something else. Something dangerous, something called hope. The girl no longer looked at the man as just a shadow. He had returned again and again, each time with food or water. Never too close, never too forceful. Always leaving as quietly as he came. The dogs had stopped snarling at him, their tails wagging when he appeared. But the girl still clutched her broken piece of metal. Her eyes watched him carefully, as if waiting for the moment he would betray her. One evening, the rain had cleared. The moon shone bright, bathing the ruins in silver light. The man sat across from her, still at a safe distance. He placed a bundle of food on the ground and waited. The girl crawled forward slowly, her dogs circling. She snatched the food, retreating quickly to her pack. The dogs tore into it, growling at each other. But she didn't eat right away. Her eyes stayed fixed on him. Studying him, testing him, the man didn't speak. He had realized she didn't understand words. Or maybe she did once. But her memory had buried them. So instead he spoke with actions. He always placed food where she could see it. He always kept his hands open. Empty, he never rushed, never forced, and slowly, like the crack of dawn breaking the night, trust began to form. The girl noticed something strange about him too. He was not like the others in the city. They had thrown stones, spat, or shouted. But he did none of those things. He did not fear her. Nor did he treat her like dirt. Instead, his eyes looked at her the way no one else had. As if she was human, not just a wild creature. Days turned into weeks, her body grew stronger. Her steps less shaky. The dogs followed her still. But she began to walk upright more often. Sometimes she even tried to mimic his movements. The way he drank water, the way he tore food. The way he sat, it was clumsy, almost childlike. But it was a beginning one night. Something unusual happened. The man brought a small cloth, folded neatly when he placed it on the ground. The girl frowned. It was not food. Not water. Cautiously, she crept forward. She touched the cloth, pulling it open. Inside was bread, soft and warm. But there was more. A small piece of polished glass. Cracked at the edges, she stared at it, confused. When she lifted it to her face, the reflection startled her. For the first time since the crash, she saw herself, her tangled hair, her bruised cheeks, her dirt-stained skin. She gasped and almost dropped it. The dogs barked, alarmed by her sudden movement. But she clutched it tightly, her heart pounded. The face was hers, but it felt like a stranger staring back. The man's eyes softened. He knew the mirror would awaken something in her. Not full memory, not yet, but awareness. And that was the first step. Later that night, as she sat with her pack, she pressed the mirror to her chest. She didn't understand why tears fell from her eyes. She only knew the man had given her something no one else had. A reminder that she was not just an animal. She was still human, even if she had forgotten her name. But trust was fragile. The city was not blind. More people had begun to notice the man's strange visits. Whispers grew louder. She feeds with dogs, but he feeds her. Why would a human care for that cursed girl? Some saw opportunity, others saw danger, and soon, the wrong eyes were watching. One evening, the girl and her dogs wandered too close to the marketplace. Hungry, tired, desperate. Before she could retreat, 3 men blocked the alley. Their clothes marked them as traders, not of goods, but of lives. Their smiles were cruel. "There she is," one hissed, "the girl with the beasts." "She'll fetch a high price," the dogs growled, forming a wall in front of her. But the men carried nets, chains, and sharp knives. The girl's body froze with fear. Her pack barked furiously, ready to fight. But there were too many then, before the men could close in. The stranger appeared. He stepped from the shadows, cloak pulled tight, eyes sharp as blades. The traders sneered. "This isn't your concern." "Human," one spat. The man didn't flinch. "She's not for sale," he said simply. The traders laughed, moving closer. But the dogs lunged, snarling, forcing them back. The girl stood trembling, clutching her broken rod. The man's hand went to his belt, and for the first time, she saw a weapon. A blade gleamed in the moonlight. His voice was calm but cold. "Leave now, or bleed." The traders hesitated, anger flashing in their eyes. But the growling pack and the stranger's calm gaze were too much. Slowly they backed away, cursing under their breath. The alley fell silent again. The girl's chest rose and fell rapidly. Her grip shaking, the dogs barked once more, then quieted. She turned her wide eyes to him. He had saved her, not with food, not with water, but with protection. The fragile bond between them deepened that night. She still did not speak, still did not remember. But when he turned to leave, she did something new. She took one step forward, the dogs followed. Her eyes locked on his back. For the first time, she wanted to follow him. Even if only for a few steps, the man noticed he didn't stop her. But his thoughts were heavy. The bond was forming. Fragile, delicate, but real. And bonds could be broken, or worse, they could be used. The bond between the girl and the stranger had grown. Day after day he came, always with food, always with silence. The dogs trusted him now. tails wagging when he appeared, and though the girl still said no words, her eyes followed him. Her steps sometimes trailed after his, as if pulled by invisible strings, but something had changed inside her. The mirror he had given her haunted her. Each time she looked into it, her reflection felt less like a stranger. Pieces of something broken stirred in her chest. Faces she could almost see, voices she could almost hear. The past was trying to return, but it came in flashes, sharp and painful. One night, thunder rolled across the alien sky. The girl lay with her pack, shivering from the cold. Her body drifted into uneasy sleep, and then the dream came. She was inside the burning wreck again. Metal twisted, alarm screamed. Hands grabbed her shoulders, dragging her through smoke. A man's voice shouted her name, but it was muffled. She couldn't hear it clearly. Then flames swallowed everything. She woke with a scream. Her body drenched in sweat. The dogs whined. Pressing close to her sides, her chest pounded like a drum. The name, the voice, it had been so close, but again it slipped away. The stranger appeared the next morning. When he saw her pale face and trembling hands, his eyes narrowed. "You dreamed," he muttered. More to himself than to her, of course she didn't understand. But she looked at him with wide, desperate eyes, as if asking him to explain the things she couldn't. He crouched, studying her arm. The strange symbols glowed faintly beneath her skin, marks that no ordinary girl should have carried. He whispered low, "Who are you really?" The girl tilted her head. Her lips parted. For the first time sound came, not a word, not full language, but a broken syllable, cracked with effort. "Nah." Her voice shook as if it hadn't been used in years. The dogs barked, startled. The man froze. It wasn't clear if it was a name or just a sound, but it was something. The first step back to herself from that day. Fragments returned piece by piece. When she touched fire, she remembered the crash. When she heard metal clashing, she remembered alarms. When she stared into the mirror, she remembered screams. And with every memory came pain. The stranger noticed the change. Her eyes grew sharper, her steps quicker. The wild girl was fading, and someone else, the person she used to be, was slowly rising. But with memory came danger. Others in the city had begun to notice too. Not just the traitors with knives, but officials, soldiers, and watchers in the dark. Whispers spread of a girl with cursed symbols. A girl protected by beasts and a human. Some said she was an escaped experiment. Others claimed she carried a secret worth killing for. The man knew time was running short. If he didn't act soon, they would come for her. One evening, as the twin moons rose, the girl wandered too far into the ruins. The dogs followed, but she was restless. She touched broken walls, rusted pipes, fragments of glass. Her fingers trembled as flashes filled her mind. A corridor filled with soldiers, a ship breaking apart in the sky. A voice calling her, "Run!" Her knees buckled. She fell to the ground. Clutching her head, the dogs barked wildly. Confused and afraid, the man was there in moments. He caught her shoulders before she collapsed fully. Her body shook, her eyes rolled back. And then she spoke, not clearly but louder than before. Fire, voices, aim. The man's breath caught. She was remembering faster now, sharper, and he realized the truth. Her past was no accident. It was hidden, buried, maybe even erased by force. Whoever wanted her gone might still be searching. When she finally calmed, her body sagged against him. Her breathing was shallow, her eyes glassy. But she clung to his cloak with weak hands as if begging him not to let go. The man's jaw tightened. He had only meant to watch, to observe, but now it was too late. The bond was no longer fragile, it was real. And that meant her fight was his fight too, that night. He sat near the fire while she slept with the dogs. The flames cast shadows on her face. She looked peaceful. But he knew the storm inside her was growing. He whispered softly to himself, "If her memories return fully, the city will not let her live." And far away, in the dark towers of the city, men in armor whispered too. Reports had reached their ears. A girl with marks, a human protecting her. One soldier slammed his fist on the table. "She must be found," he said. "Before she remembers everything." The girl stirred in her sleep. Her lips moved again, whispering that broken sound. "Nah." The man glanced at her, his heart heavy. He knew her name was hiding in that sound, and once it returned, so would the truth. A truth powerful enough to save her, or destroy them all. The city was no longer safe. The girl had begun to remember pieces of her past. Her broken voice whispered fragments, her eyes flickered with memories. And with each memory, danger grew closer. Soldiers, traders, and spies had heard of the wild girl with the cursed marks. They whispered her story in markets and alleys. Some wanted her captured, some wanted her silenced, and all wanted her before she remembered the truth. The man knew it was only a matter of time. He could not keep hiding her in ruins forever. But when he looked at her, sleeping against her pack of dogs, he felt something he hadn't expected. She wasn't just a mystery to him anymore. She wasn't just a lost girl. She was his responsibility. And more than that, she was the first person in years who made him feel alive. The girl woke suddenly one night, her body shaking. This time the dream was clearer. She saw fire, soldiers, and a ship exploding in the sky. And a voice, strong and desperate, calling her name. Nara! Her eyes shot open, tears streaming down her face. The dogs whined, pressing close to her. She clutched her head, whispering again and again. Nara, Nara. Her name had returned, her chest heaved as if her heart might burst. And though her past was still blurred, she finally knew who she was. The man crouched beside her. He wiped the dirt and sweat from her forehead. Nara, he repeated softly. Her eyes met his, wide and frightened. She didn't know if he was friend or enemy, but when he said her name, it felt right. It felt safe. Before dawn, the danger came. Men in armor marched into the ruins, their boots heavy on broken ground. Chains clinked at their belts. Weapons gleamed in their hands. The dogs barked. Growling fiercely, Nara froze, fear flooding her chest. The man pulled her to her feet, his voice low and urgent. Stay behind me. She didn't understand all his words, but she understood his tone, protection, not betrayal. The soldiers shouted, Hand her over! She is marked. She belongs to the council. The man stood tall, his cloak whipping in the wind. She belongs to no one, he said, his voice steady. The soldiers sneered. Then you will die with her. The fight was brutal. Steel clashed, dogs lunged, teeth sank into armored legs. The man moved with speed and fury, his blade flashing in the moonlight. But there were too many. Nara trembled. Clutching her broken rod, fear screamed at her to run, but she couldn't leave him. He had fed her, protected her, given her back her name, and now he was fighting for her life. Something inside her broke free. She screamed, charging forward with the dogs. Her rod struck an enemy's face. The black dog with the torn ear leapt, knocking another soldier down. Her pack fought like warriors, and she, wild, broken. Human fought beside them when it was over. The ruins were silent again. The soldiers fled, leaving behind their wounded. The man stood bloodied, his blade dripping. Nara fell to her knees, shaking, her hands covered in dirt and blood, her chest heaving. The dogs gathered around. Licking her wounds, she looked at the man. Her eyes filled with something new, not just fear, not just survival, but gratitude, and something deeper, something she couldn't name. He crouched beside her, his voice soft but firm. It's over, he said. She didn't understand all the words, but she understood his face, his eyes, his tone. He wasn't leaving. He wasn't abandoning her like the others, and for the first time since the crash, she felt safe. Days passed and the city grew quiet again, but Nara's life was no longer the same. Her memories came slowly, but she did not face them alone. The man was always there, sometimes silent, sometimes guiding, always steady, always present. The dogs still circled them, loyal and fierce. Her old family might have been gone, but a new one had been born one evening as the sun set. Nara sat by the fire with the man. Her head rested lightly against his shoulder. The black dog lay at their feet. The rest curled around them for the first time in forever. She smiled. Not the small, broken smile she once gave to her dogs, but a true smile filled with warmth. She whispered her name again, softly, and Nara. The man nodded, repeating it back. And though she could not remember everything about her past, she knew one truth clearly. She had been lost. She had been broken. But his love, his quiet, patient, stubborn love, had given her life again. The city could whisper, the soldiers could hunt. But Nara was no longer the nameless wild girl. She was Nara. She was human and she was alive.